think we have to start. I would like first to thank you all, speakers and participants, on behalf of the Islamic World Academy of Science and the Higher Council for Science and Technology, the Industrial Research and Development Fund. Special thanks are due to Dr. FOUAD MRAD, who spared no time to make this event a reality. My sincere thanks are also extended to the eminent speakers, Dr. YOUSEPH YAZDI, Dr. Mona ITANI, and Mr. KAREEM HASSAN. Today's session on government, research, and industry for sustainable development complements previous session held on May 24 this year on innovation as an outcome of research. I have to say that this event constitutes a special occasion for me, since it marks the activity in the IAS for me as the last activity, as a matter of fact, for me as a Director General. I will step down effective on January the 1st, 2023, as I assumed a new position as Secretary General of the Higher Council for Science and Technology. Dr. FOUAD, please take the microphone.
Very much, Dr. Abdullah, and I am honored to be facilitating for the second time in this series the workshops on entitled Government, Research and Industry for Sustainable Development. Of course, session one took place on 24 May, and it was entitled Innovation as an Outcome of Research. I had the same picture as well and the same flyer, but the speakers changed. And at that time, we discussed a lot about innovation connected to research, specifically from university and research centers. At that time, we had Bahia Yafi, we had Lutfi Belkhair from Qatar University, and we had Dr. Atkinson from the School of Aerospace. Of course, when we discussed at that time innovation and research and the importance of connecting university research to innovation needs and socio-economic development globally, that's a challenge everybody is trying to do, not only in the Islamic world or in the region. We had to benefit from that discussion and say what would be the focus of the second workshop. And we agreed with Dr. Abdullah and Rima and the whole team that technopreneurship, which is the technology-based entrepreneurship, is the topic that should complement the innovation and research. And as we will find out in this conversation we're having today with three speakers, I will introduce in a bit, and they will tell us how they're supporting technopreneurship to lead sustainable development. Not only support, but to lead. Because we're going to find out also that entrepreneurship in technology and innovation from research are two sides of the same coin. And we need the innovation to empower that entrepreneurship drive. Now, I wanted to share with you from a textbook that is 2022, only a few months old. It's called The Emergence of Technopreneurship for Sustainable and Ethical Economic Growth, where it is stressed in one of the chapters that entrepreneurship is not only starting new business, but rather entrepreneurship represents a revolutionary changes. And that's where innovation comes in the picture. And with the presence of new technology, no industry is unaffected. Everybody is feeling the heat. And after and during COVID-19, we all saw the importance of digitalization. And all of this happening for the sake of socioeconomic and sustainable development, where ethical human rights that have to be instilled within the entrepreneurial activities in higher education. And that's how the composition of the panel today. I'm going to stop at this, and later on we might have a few more comments when we open the floor for conversation and comments from all the participants. And at this time, I am very honored to introduce Dr. YOUSEPH YAZDI, who is the director of the Center for Bioengineering, Innovation and Design in Johns Hopkins University in Maryland. And his intervention in support of technopreneurship will focus on humanizing innovation. I know it will be a practical, it will be case-based intervention, and we appreciate very much your dedicated conversation with us this morning, Dr. Yazdi, knowing it's 6 a.m. on the Eastern time. The floor is yours, Youseph.
Thank you so much for this kind invitation. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. I'm very honored to be here on this panel in this distinguished, with this distinguished group and with the listeners. I will try to explain briefly our process. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Houston, Texas, in the United States, and my parents were immigrants from Iran. And I went to university there, also worked there, developed a technique for using image ultrasound in a unique way. And that led me to the world of medical device innovation. When I was finishing with my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering, I actually had a job offer at the factory in Fort Worth, Texas, that makes the F-16 jet. And I remember walking up and down the aisles, looking at these jets and their bombs and machine guns. I thought to myself, I have to find a better way to use my talents, perhaps in saving lives instead of this. So that led me to biomedical engineering as a field. So I did my PhD and went to work in a company called Johnson & Johnson. It's one of the larger medical device companies in the world. It's known for baby shampoo, perhaps around the world, but it's also one of the biggest medical device makers. They make stents and all sorts of surgical instruments. And that led me 12 years ago to become a faculty here at Johns Hopkins University. And the goal of the creation of our center, called the Center for Bioengineering, Innovation and Design, is to bring best practices from industry, from the world of people who actually make real world solutions, practical solutions, and bring that into the world of academia. And by the way, this was quite controversial. There were people who at the time felt that you're either on this side of the street, the industry side, or you're on that side of the street, the academic side, and you cannot play in the middle of the street. You have to make a decision one way or the other. And for clinicians, it was for doctors, it was very different. It was a counterculture to the established culture in the academic institution. The understanding was that the goal of this institution is to extend the frontiers of science and technology, and then also to practice medicine in the best possible way. But to be a bridge between those two worlds, between the world of science and technology and the world where doctors in the trenches, literally trying to save lives in their medical practice, to bring those two together was something the university did not do well. It did not consider it to be its mission. The mission that Dr. Murad mentioned about innovation being the core of really having an impact. Now, as we know, leaders are different than followers. Leaders change institutions. They don't just keep doing their job well, but they fundamentally change institutions. And that is what we're talking about here. How can we change the world of academia to bring in the mindset of problem solving? Problem solving not for science, but problem solving for real world, for the people who are suffering from disease, for people who need our help. You know, there's an expression that you all probably know better in your native language. It says, and something my parents taught me, that the thing that lasts is the thing that's beneficial to mankind. If you want to build something that is of lasting value, whether it's a device or an institution or a country, it has to be something that brings real value to people. And you do this through problem solving people's problems. So that's the fundamental philosophical basis of our center. Now, if I could share my screen, I will show some slides with your permission. And can you see my slides here?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we could see them.
Thank you so much. So this is a picture of our brand new hospital, and funded by one of the towers here is named after Michael Bloomberg, and the other tower is named after Sheikh Zayed ibn al-Nahyan, and they both donated 50 million, I think, to create this wonderful hospital. I remember after we built the hospital, our guest speaker at our annual event said, he showed a picture of this hospital and said, this is exactly what we do not need. We do not need more cathedrals built in the name of science and medicine. We need more hospitals built out where people live in communities, smaller facilities, etc. The mission of our center when we created it was really twofold: education and innovation combined together, because we believe students learn best when they work on real world problems with real doctors, with real egos, facing real challenges. This is a photograph it's one of my favorites. It's a photograph of 4 of our students in a maternity clinic in Nepal. And to Dr. Murad's point about humanizing innovation, innovation is really about problem solving. And to solve a problem, you have to go to where the problem exists. You have to talk to the people who are suffering from that problem. If a friend comes to you and says, I have a problem, the first best thing you can do is be quiet and listen carefully. Listen and understand exactly what is going on with that person. What do they need? So this is a photograph of our students in a maternity clinic in Nepal, talking to a woman who is in charge. She's one of the midwives in this clinic. And what they immediately notice is her dedication, her insight into all the things that are needed. They also notice the ways, if you look up on the wall here, there are charts and tools that she has developed and used to manage the cases in the hospital. And by going to this hospital and seeing babies being born there, seeing babies struggle to breathe their first breaths, the students develop a sense of drive that I want to do something. And people ask me, where does creativity come from? Where does innovation come from? It comes from passion. People say it comes from wisdom or knowledge. Often wisdom and knowledge are like a heavy, wet blanket over your creativity. They stifle creativity. It seems like the younger you are, the more creative you are. And as we get older, we get more and more knowledgeable and experienced, but it weighs down on our creativity. So creativity really comes from the passion you have to want to solve the problem. And you get that passion by actually talking to people who are suffering from that problem and understanding it clearly. So this is the purpose of sending our students to clinics like Nepal. They work there for weeks, understanding the problem, collecting notes. You notice a notebook here. The students are taking notes very carefully, understanding what is going on. I also love the photograph because it shows the diversity. In innovation, one of the core principles of innovation, it demands diverse opinions, diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives. If you go into an innovation team and you see all men who look like you, who have your background, you should walk out of that meeting, because that meeting is not, that group is not going to solve anything, big challenge. You have to insist that the team represents the perspectives of a broader group of people, a broader group of backgrounds. People talk about what is design. Design is often described as making something something that looks really good. Here's a picture of a product. It's for making lemon juice or fruit juice. If you have one of these, I apologize for insulting your choices, but this is something that that will make a mess on your countertop if you try to use it. But it looks very chic. It's very attractive. A French designer designed it, and they sell it for $50 US dollars in the local kitchen supply store. So just because something looks good, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about designing a good solution to a problem. Now, design can be bad in many, many ways. It can be not functional or not effective or not safe or not usable or not affordable, maybe not even buildable on a mass scale, not sustainable, or not better than anything that's out there already. It could be only incrementally better than what's out there. The bottom line is it doesn't bring real value to other people, and it's not a good use of our creativity and our time. We should insist in our own work and in those of our students that the things that they are doing are worthy of their time. And no place has suffered from bad design more than the world of medical practice. In every area of medicine, there are technologies and solutions that were not driven by human-centered design, by empathy. They were driven by profit, or they're driven by people trying to impress others with their egos or their intellectual abilities or technical abilities. But that has resulted in a healthcare system in the United States, just from the world that I know, and many countries that we visited, where medicine, there's amazing medical devices available, but they're not accessible to the majority of people around the world. Even simple things like a pancreatic surgery or a C-section, surgical procedures, there are shortages, over 100,000 shortage around the world of surgeons who are capable of doing minimally invasive surgery. So this is a travesty, and this is something that we as innovators need to address. This is something I worked on when I first went to work at Johnson & Johnson. It's a medical device designed to remove a person's gallbladder, for example, through tiny holes in the abdomen. It's an excellent solution. It allows them to cut and staple and pull out the gallbladder through a tiny hole and articulated move around. Plus, I dare say it looks actually quite chic as well. It's a nice looking device, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to be extremely functional. And good design can improve health, lower pain, automate something that is now manual, take something that requires a high level of skill and de-skill it, or make it easier to do for a low-level skilled person. Maybe something requires a super specialist at Johns Hopkins. You design a solution so that anybody in any hospital could do it. Or something that requires someone in a hospital to do it, and you design it so that someone in a clinic can do it. Or something that requires a clinic, you design so it can be done at home. So we've designed, for example, a method for when a woman has a baby, she goes home with her husband to their village in Africa, and she has a very simple, inexpensive device she can place on her baby's chest, and it warns the parents that the baby may have sepsis, infection that could kill the baby. So it gives them a quick warning, and if they see that, then they will rapidly go to the doctor and get checked, or to the clinic. The bottom line is good design can empower people. Give people the power to design solutions that can allow them to take control over their health. One of the projects we worked on is, a few examples of, a little bit about our design methodology before I bring some examples. These are photographs taken by our students in different places around the world. This is an actual surgical suite we visited in a rural area in India, and we met some patients who actually had their pancreas taken out and their gallbladder taken out in this area, this desk here. And it really instilled in us the desire to want to help. That should lead you to careful and respectful understanding. The woman seated here is one of the top cardiologists in India, and our team went there with employees of companies and students together, and we listened carefully to every word she has to say to really understand what are the challenges she is facing so we can properly address those. And there are 100 things you have to think about in order to solve a problem in medicine. And this is a quick example of many of those. It's too complicated to deal with, really, so we designed a methodology to simplify it, to ensure you think about more, not just the things you're comfortable thinking about, but thinking about the whole problem. all the clinical things you have to think about, all the commercial things, including how much are people willing to pay for a solution, all the technical and design things, and all the organizational strategic issues. The question is, how do you do this? What do you start with? So typically, if you're in an academic institution, like my PhD, my advisor said, Youseph, you can work on whatever the heck you want to work on, but it better end up using a laser as the solution, because we are a laser laboratory, so you have to use a laser. And guess what? We came up with an amazing solution to cervical cancer that used a laser, but the laser cost $200,000, very expensive, et cetera, et cetera. It never helped anybody, but I did get a PhD. So I'm Dr. Yazdi, but I never helped anybody with my dissertation. So I can be very proud of myself, but frankly, when I'm explaining it to my mother or my grandmother, I was not proud at all, because I knew that my solution didn't help anybody. Why? Because I spent all the time focused on the technical and design issues and neglected all of the other issues. How is it usable in the clinic? Is it going to be in a cost as much as people are willing to pay? Do I have the right team and resources to actually develop it? I neglected those because I wanted to focus on what I'm comfortable with. A proper approach is the one that we teach. It's an iterative process where you follow this pathway, starting with a clinical understanding and doing a little bit of work on the clinical understanding, a little bit of work on the commercial understanding, and then do a little bit of design work, a little bit of putting together the team and the resources, and then you stop. You stop and you ask yourself, does this project still make sense? If it does, then you expand and go further in depth on all of these things. It's like hiking in the mountains. You can see 10 steps ahead of you and not beyond that. You see in the distance your objective, but you have to go those first 10 steps before you can see the next 10 steps. But if someone says, I'm not going to take any step until I know the whole journey all the way to my peak, then they're never going to leave their starting point. There's a limit to how much you can plan ahead. You have to get working. There's a saying in our culture that if you want guidance, you have to start working hard and striving towards something. Once you start striving towards something, then you will be guided in order to reach that objective. So you have to get off the dime and start working, do the first iteration, and then go to the second iteration and onward and onward. This is our method to develop holistically balanced innovation that actually works in the real world, that doesn't neglect any of these 4 areas along the path. So you make sure it makes sense at every stage. If it does, then you go on to the next stage. And we look at hundreds of solutions and we filter them down to the ones that make sense from all four perspectives. Then we go back, we build prototypes. It takes a community of people really to design medical solutions. Here, during the Ebola crisis, we designed better personal protective gear. And we first built prototypes, showed it to groups of experts and this is our design studio that Dr. Mrad's team visited a few months ago. We showcase our product, and then we went to the field in Guinea in the middle of the Ebola crisis to actually have it evaluated by people with Doctors Without Borders to see if it actually makes sense. It took a lot of interaction, a lot of feedback, and a lot of humility, because I can tell you the original ideas were really just basically not functional at all. It took a long time before we narrowed it down to ideas that actually work well. And when they do work, then you expand and make sure at every level that your project continues to make sense from all 4 perspectives. I'll skip ahead in the interest of time. We do projects for the US, for developed countries, advanced countries, but also for global health projects around the world. We've also done projects in the Middle East with nurses in Egypt, and with students in Beirut and in Gaza City. And we have successful spin-out companies from these that have raised significant amount of money and successful for the US and globally. I'll bring you a couple of examples. And it's always important not to just ask and then leave, but to keep going back again and again and making sure your innovation project remains connected to the people you're trying to help. So our team will have an initial idea, and then go back and say, okay, doctor, okay, nurse, okay, patient, does this make sense? Do you think this would be useful to you? If so, then we continue to advance on it. But hopefully they'll give very critical feedback and say, this is not going to work for this reason and this reason and this reason. And that leads us to better innovation. We go back and try to fix it. I'll give you one example. How much time do I have, Dr. Murad? I have a few examples. Should I just go with one?
You have like 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, I'll bring you just one example. One of the biggest problems in managing patients is in caring for wounds, chronic wounds, sores, bed sores. And it's critically important that the nurse is able to measure the bed sore and know whether it's improving, it's increasing in size or improving or healing. And the way they do it typically is to take this tape measure and measure the wound. And the error is huge, 44% measurement error. And it takes about a minute to do it, and nurses know that it's not very accurate. So, and this causes a whole bunch of complications afterwards. So the team was challenged, how can I solve the problem? And they solved it by using their smartphone to take a picture of the wound, but they were able to calibrate it very accurately to less than 5% error. So can anyone guess how they're able to do this? Now, given that cameras, if you hold the cell phone high or low, it's going to change the size of the wound. So how can you do it? Now, modern iPhone 14 has a LiDAR in it, radar. But the phones, when we did this project, did not have that. Plus, that's very expensive technology. So anyone have any idea how you could correct for distance and angle and illumination in order to get a picture that's calibrated with less than 5% error?
Did they use artificial intelligence?
No, they did not. But excellent.
I'm worried there are 60 participants, Youseph. You might open.
Okay, I'll solve it. I sent the students to a office supply store and buy these green dots. This green dot is the kind you put on your folders, you know, or your documents, to label your document. They bought a box of 1,000 of these green dots. And I said, every time you want to take a picture, first put the green dot there. The green dot, you know the size, you know the color, you know the shape. So if your camera, as it goes up or down, you can correct for that. If it goes at an angle, the shape becomes an oval and you can correct for that. And the color, you can correct for the different types of lighting. And this allowed them to do it, and it cost less than a penny per patient. Simple, elegant innovation. This became a startup company, and the team that developed it made millions of dollars because they became so successful, they sold their company to another company. It's a very successful innovation called tissue analytics. Here's another one that uses CO2 for cervical cancer. It was a very complex device, and the students designed something that freezes the cervix for cervical cancer treatment in a very low-cost device that cost about $10 plastic. I'll skip there. Really, the bottom line I want to stop with is that this is a journey that you must do with a team. You must really go out and see the people and the environment in which you want to function in order to be effective, but it really takes a team going on this journey together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Yazdi, for a very enlightening and unique view on humanizing innovation, on human-centered design, stressing passion, stressing the role that each one of us can play to be a driver of change. And I'm sure my colleagues on the panel will add and build on what you concluded with, especially when I'm trying to zoom in to the region. And I have a very nice reference that I'd like to invite colleagues who are interested in the topic to look at, which is a Springer book that's called Higher Education in the Arab World. And some of you know that the chief editor is Professor Adnan Badran. They talk about the new priorities for higher education after COVID-19. And social entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship, values of entrepreneurship in the local context are extensively discussed and debated with cases and lots of examples. That's only the introduction and the background I want to lay for, yes, Assistant Professor Dr. Mona ITANI, and for entrepreneurship and youth role in technopreneurship. I'm glad that Mona is not like me, gray hair, full professor. She's the assistant professor because we need the young blood pushing. And like my friend Youseph was a full professor as well, I acknowledge his seniority. We need the young spirit, the youth creativity, as he stressed it, that will definitely lead the future. And Mona is an assistant professor in the American University of Beirut, where she will tell you what she's doing. She asked me, what do you want me to present? I said, just present. What do you do in AUB? And that will be a story by itself to share best practice and hopefully network with. Mona, it's yours.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Fouad. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to be part of such panels. Of course, I'm here representing my university, the American University of Beirut. I'm very proud that you consider me to be a young person, and I hope that we are trying to bring institutional change to this reputable institution, our beloved American University of Beirut. And please share with us the link for the book that you just mentioned. I'm sure the administration would love to take a look at that. I will also share some slides, but they are not as extensive as what Dr. Yazdi shared. So it's just a glimpse on our entrepreneurial work at AUB. I'm very proud to have been one of the professors who are working on instilling an entrepreneurial mindset and innovation mindset at the university. And I'm sure that we still have a long way to go. So I'm not here to tell you that what we're doing is ideal or perfect or that we have already done it. No, by no means we are there yet, but I think we are on the right track. And I hope now with this network, and maybe we can even like do better things with some of you and with some of your support as well, because we always need support. So what I need to tell you is that at the American University of Beirut, we have a growing opportunity for faculty and students to engage and to really be closer to the field of innovation and entrepreneurship through different ways. Of course, I would say that we are very proud that many of our alumni are very successful entrepreneurs around the world. They have won awards, recognition. They have been able to sell companies and get acquired for millions and millions of dollars and so on. So definitely AUB could take credit for that, for graduating these minds. However, as you all know, unfortunately, most of these success stories have made it in the West. Like after they graduated, they left. They went to, somewhere else. They found maybe a more enabling environment, and they were able to succeed. But definitely AUB takes credit in terms of maybe planting the seed. And for me, I always talk about planting the seed of innovation entrepreneurship, because these are the seeds that flourish, and we want to do more and more and more of that. And we hope that if we keep doing more, some of these seeds will flourish in our region and not just in the West. So I want to tell you that just as we were having our revolution in Lebanon in 2019, we have also inaugurated the Talal Al-Madi Hazin AUB Innovation Park, which is one additional entity that is helping the entrepreneurial and innovation culture thrive and grow at AUB. We are very proud of this entity because it's actually housed outside AUB. It's housed at the Beirut Digital District at the center of Beirut, which is the digital hub of entrepreneurship, of tech startups, and even of established tech companies, multinational companies who come and work in Lebanon, in Beirut. This space, in addition to being a really beautiful space, is really an enabling environment for startups that stem out of AUB from different programs. And I'll quickly speak about all the programs that we have to take their ideas to the next level and to launch their startups in the market. So definitely we are a university, we care about education, and this is our first mandate. However, through the iPark, there are bigger goals to actually graduate startups and support AUB affiliated startups. And by AUB affiliated, we talk about alumni, we talk about faculty, staff. So it's not just about students, but also about maybe people who have left AUB many years before, or maybe people who are working at AUB. And maybe entrepreneurship is not a direct part of their job. So it could be something else they would like to do on the side. So these are more pictures of the iPark, just to give you a glimpse of the innovation that is happening at AUB and the entrepreneurship. And again, we have definitely received support, financial support and in-kind support, but also AUB has invested in this vision. So it's part of the new administration's vision. Dr. Fadl Khouri, the president, is always part of these events. We have an annual President Innovation Challenge where he personally is encouraging everyone to be part of the challenge and so on. Now I would like to talk more about the different stages that are covered throughout the different programs at AUB. And this list is not an exhaustive one, it's a growing one, and it's something that we are very proud of. So maybe 7 years ago, when I started my entrepreneurial journey and being part of this whole entrepreneurial ecosystem, we had 2 entities at AUB who did anything related to entrepreneurship. And with time, this list has been growing and growing, and we expect it to keep growing. And this is very, very healthy. We have programs, courses, faculties, and funds that have to do with the different stages in the entrepreneurial innovation journey. Definitely, because we are a research-based university, we focus a lot on research. And this is where, for example, we have a lot of different funds, graduate research funds or faculty research funds that have to do with research and innovation. Basically, a lot of this maybe in the engineering faculty. We have some in the computer science and others. IDPP at the Maroon Sam'an Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, they do human-centered design, exactly how Dr. Yazdi described it. So this is something that we are also integrating more and more into the curricula, into our research projects, into our proposals, and into entrepreneurship as well. So for research, we have a lot of activities going on. We have even more activities going on when we talk about idea stage entrepreneurship projects. So I personally teach a course at the Alliance School of Business called Entrepreneurship and Business Planning, where every single person is part of a team working towards a startup, and they pitch their idea by the end of the course. So by the end of every semester, we have at least 12 startup ideas that have done feasibility study, that have some traction, that have a prototype, that have a business plan, and so on. And a lot of other entities at AUB, such as the Darwaza Center, the Center for Research and Innovation, several other courses on campus, they do the same as well. So we have several faculties, for example, agriculture, engineering, medicine, business, computer science, and others who are contributing to this idea stage pipeline, if you want to say. And we are very proud that we score really well on that stage, if you want to say. Now let's advance a little bit more, because we're doing this well. Let's see what else we have to do. When it comes to product development, we also have several entities, programs, and faculties that play a role. So we have under the engineering faculty, for example, a maker space where students or faculty or any AUB affiliated team can come to the maker space. They can prototype their ideas using material and some mentorship and so on. We have definitely some final year project students in the engineering faculty as well, who have real products by the end of their final year or capstone projects that could be entrepreneurial projects. We have accelerator program at the Lebanon Faculty of Engineering and Architecture. I used to be part of that program for 3 years, and so on and so forth. So we have it, but the issue here is that we have a challenge that we have few success stories in terms of the teams who wanted to continue after they went through this whole process. So after product development, very few teams actually continue to work on their products and to commercialize them and so on. This is where you see that we have like a gap or a weakness when it comes to the go-to market or the growth stage, and more specifically the tech transfer commercialization space. This is when we talk about innovation, intellectual property, and so on. And I would say that this is due to many factors. Maybe expertise could be one of them, but I don't think it's the main one. Mostly we have a lack of enabling environment. It's because of the environment we live in, the laws of the country, the situation in this region, particularly the market size. So we have a lot of issues, and add to that also the mindset issue. So we're still not very much used to, like, again, like for example, if you talk about faculty, they're more used to like, let's publish a paper, not gonna do the patenting exercise, I care about publishing more. So it's like a mindset issue as well, which we are trying to change. So I'll talk about a bit of general observations and maybe talk about some opportunities, and I hope that maybe we can have a room for also discussion. So definitely, as I mentioned, we are doing really well at the American University of Beirut when it comes to the idea stage and maybe the product development stage. So we have available resources, equipment, tools, mentorship, and so on. So, and all the programs that support them with that. The least served stages are the go-to market and the commercialization. And usually, again, like if we want to say, like, let's measure our success, we have to look at go-to market and commercialization. We have to look at, the IP generated by the university. We have to look at the commercialization. And this is where we are still not that strong, I would say. There is a direction, there is a vision that we want to do more of that. And hopefully with more time, we will get there. So we also have funding, so opportunities at AUB internally, but they are mostly focused on, again, early stages of the startup of the innovation process. But we don't have a lot of opportunities in terms of investment later on. And I want to talk a little bit about what Dr. Mrad said when you talk about social entrepreneurship. And I know this from personal experience. This is something that we don't have investment for in our country, in Lebanon, and even in the region. So it's very new. Investors in the region still want this like high profit, high growth startups. And they honestly, unfortunately, don't care a lot about the impact maybe that Dr. Yazdi was talking about. So also I was part of a panel a few weeks back also with the UNDP and Middle East Institute. We raised the same issue. So if you want value-based startups that actually create impact, we have to also have impact investment. We have to educate the investors to learn and do the investment in these kinds of startups, and not just in the typical commercial kind of startups that they are used to. So this is mostly it. Again, I'm very proud to be part of the team at AUB who is making this happen. Definitely, I can say that we can claim to be an entrepreneurial university. We are doing more and more of that. Also, we are working together as the different teams and faculties and programs who are contributing towards that entrepreneurial culture at the university to align together, to make sure that students better benefit from the different resources that they have, so that they have a more useful journey, a more effective journey, and hopefully better results and more successes. But definitely we have challenges related to Lebanon, related to mindsets, related to the enabling environment. and definitely related to investment, impact investment, and again, commercialization. So we hope that we'll be navigating these challenges in the future, and we would like to navigate them with a bigger support network, a bigger support system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona. You excited some questions. We will get back to conversation with the questions, and I recognize Dr. Jack for putting in the box. We will have a conversation with anyone who has a comment or a question later on. And as everyone noticed, the stress that Dr. Yazdi and Dr. ITANI, they converged around the issues of culture, passion, human-centered mindset, reaching out to the community. When, you know, Zain Center went out of campus, which is really a huge step for AV to get out of campus. This is a pioneering step. And then I'm reminded of all these cultural items that are so important to what we're talking about, technopreneurship, for accelerating sustainable development in the region and the Islamic world. I have to touch on the role I have played for, especially last year, in Stars of Science, which is my Qatar Foundation, legacy 15 years. And the name that comes to mind that really integrates all what we're talking from the previous two speakers is self-efficacy. Some people call it the human agency. If I want to simplify it, it's a can-do attitude. So for the last 15 years, we've been showing through TV to everyone experimentally how Arab youth are changing their mind and proving they can do it. And that's a self-efficacy and the human agency. To be able to make that decision, the behavior, the habit, through a 3 months boot camp to develop an MVP. So I am just laying the background and the connection with my next speaker, who is KAREEM HASSAN. He's the Executive Director of ESCWA Technology Center, a United Nations regional center. He will tell you a lot about, despite the fact I know a lot about its history and what they're doing today. Extremely happy to see ESCWA Technology Center is leading with an SME summit that I invited KAREEM, who accepted to share with us the summit, SME summit in the world, really, that happened to be hosted in Jordan by ESCWA Technology Center. And looking forward to hopefully build on the summit outcome, as KAREEM will highlight. Go ahead, KAREEM, please.
Thank you, Dr. FOUAD, for the introduction and hosting this interesting workshop. Let me share my screen. So yeah, I'll give a quick presentation about fostering technopreneurship for sustainable development in the Arab region, and with featuring the key outcomes of the Arab SMEs Summit that happened in Amman this year. For a background for building the summit and initiating the idea of the summit, we designed at ESCWA Technology Center the technopreneurship journey for SDGs, and this journey consists of 6 main elements that led to the summit at the 7th element. So we tried to identify the national and regional demands in the field of technology and entrepreneurship, in addition to creating some tools for inspiring and educating innovators and entrepreneurs in the region, and how to help them to develop local solutions and commercialize the invented solutions in the Arab region, and how to help them also and help entrepreneurs to register their businesses and help Arab countries to facilitate the certifications and registration procedures, in addition to navigating through the business supporting community and networks, in addition to helping all SMEs and also business enablers and policymakers to help in the process of scaling up and internationalization of SMEs and their impact through creating opportunities beyond borders at the Arab SMEs Summit. So quickly, we developed at the ESCWA Technology Center a series of challenges and opportunities workshops. It happened virtually and physically also as well. Through these challenges and workshops, we identified almost 60 challenges that face the Arab region in the field of technology and entrepreneurship, and we identified also almost 90 solutions for these challenges, and we categorized these solutions under 6 main categories, and these categories we started working on and compiling at the end of this task at the Arab SMEs Summit. So one of the main elements of this solution is to inspire and educate innovators. So we created a series of compendiums of technologies in the field of agriculture, in the field of renewable energy, water sanitation and hygiene, and also extended reality and the metaverse. In addition to helping SMEs to develop local solutions by elaborating the business models that can be implemented based on these technologies. So having the compilation of these compendiums and business models, we have a set of tools to inspire future entrepreneurs to start their own innovation and businesses. In addition, also to creating a regional program for e-commerce, helping and assisting entrepreneurs to shift their business to sell online. And we were able to build the capacities of almost 100 SMEs last year and help them to sell their products online across the region. So we created a community of e-commerce entrepreneurs. And also we started working with different Arab governments in Jordan and Syria to help them to establish their online registration system for businesses. And this helps a lot to formalize businesses in these countries. In addition to building a network of business enablers across the region, we navigated through the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the Arab region. We built 22 maps representing the entire Arab world and discovered the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. In addition, also to discovering the renewable energy sector and its business enablers across the region for the 22 Arab countries, the agri-tech sector, and also the wash tech sectors. So by this way, we were able to identify who are the main actors in these fields in the region, in addition also to the women empowerment in technology and entrepreneurship ecosystems. So with a total of 136 ecosystem maps, we gathered almost 10,000 business enablers across the region that they are working in the field of technology and entrepreneurship and supporting entrepreneurs and SMEs in the region. So leaning on all the previously mentioned steps, the 6 main steps, we collected all of that. We tried to build something that combines all of these together. The ecosystem, the tools, capacity building workshops, e-commerce, and also the policymakers, and do this kind of exchange between policymakers to share their experiences about fostering and helping SMEs to grow in their communities. So for this, we created the 7th step to help scaling up and internationalization of SMEs, and we created the Arab SMEs Summit, where we gathered almost 1,000 persons from all over the Arab region, 650 SMEs from the region, 100 policymakers, 100 business enablers, and 50 organizations offering their opportunities for SMEs in the region, along with different people from academia, from research, from other dimensions, having all of them at one place. At this place, we we ran inspirational panels. We brought super amazing minds from all over the Arab region and also internationally to inform SMEs about the new trends in the field of technology and entrepreneurship, the global trends and also regional trends, and sharing experiences, practical experiences implemented globally. In addition, also to bringing almost 100 SMEs to exhibit their work in different in the field of technology and advanced technologies and emerging technologies, in addition to green technologies, educational technologies, and also e-commerce. They were able to come together, exchange their experiences, build synergies, build new partnerships between each other. It was really amazing to see also different cooperations between different sectors, like the people who are working in creating digital solutions or extended reality initiatives, how they came together with the people working in the field of e-commerce and logistics, and helping also different sectors. So we built these synergies across Arab SMEs, across different countries, and they created new initiatives and new businesses beyond their borders. In addition also to running the policy dialogue, where we brought different policymakers from all over the Arab region, in addition also to bringing experts and policymakers from different regions also as well, to exchange different views and programs that had been implemented in different countries, and how could other Arab countries get the benefits out of these programs. So we raised almost 35 new initiatives or ideas raised at the policy dialogue, and this was really a heavy meal for most of policymakers, and returned back with tons of ideas that can transform their business enabling environments at their countries. In addition also to running capacity building workshops, in 3 days we were able to train almost 500 entrepreneurs from all over the region in 10 parallel workshops in the fields of technology, e-commerce, technology road mapping, and online marketing, and different topics as well. And to sum it up, like the main outcomes for the 3 days, we were able to gather commitments from ESCWA and its partners from the United Nations and other organizations, where we raised over $130 million for SMEs in the Arab region, in addition to committing to digitize 100 enterprises across the region, and upscaling more than 50.
I can't hear you, Kareem. Okay, Kareem. Kareem, can we connect again? Hello.
Back your message.
I think Kareem got to the bottom line, which was the conclusion of the SME Summit. And it's amazing commitment that you, despite the fact you couldn't hear Kareem, but you were able to read clearly the impressive commitment that Kareem was trying to.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Maybe I had a internet connection issue.
We'll let you take your time and conclude your presentation for sure, Kareem. Go ahead.
Yeah, this was the last element, which is launching 2 centers of entrepreneurship, physical centers of entrepreneurship. We started one in Morocco a couple of weeks ago in Casablanca, and also we are launching a new center in Riyadh. So to mobilize also the SMEs community at these countries, and we are looking forward to cooperating with more countries in the region to establish new centers to mobilize the ecosystem of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and also tons of regional and international opportunities to local SMEs. So this is in brief what we have done for helping and supporting SMEs in the region, especially with lots of attention to technology-driven SMEs, and also environmental driven businesses also as well. Yeah, we are committing at ESCWA to support SMEs as at the maximum of our capacity, and we are looking forward to helping and supporting hundreds or maybe thousands of SMEs across the region. Thank you very much, and yeah, sorry for the interruption for the internet, and yeah, looking forward to the discussion. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Fouad. The floor is yours now.
Thank you, Kareem. Excellent job. Can't be more proud than what I just saw from this very efficient team in the Technology Center for this creative approach and pioneer step for the region to have an SME dedicated summit with capacity building and all the features that he mentioned, including at the end, the commitments in terms of networking, support, finance, and markets going outside the borders. This is extremely important, creative, and we would like to build on it. I assume there will be SME Summit 2 and hopefully 3 and more to build on learning fashion to get better year after year. Now, I want to thank all my panelists who have been amazing and focused to the point, but I hope we can get a conversation going with our participants who have been listening, and some of them raised the question, like Dr. Jack, who is a friend of mine, and his question is to Dr. Muna. There appear to be many actors in each stage of development, Muna. Apart from the go-to-market, how to avoid duplication of efforts and dilution of resources? You get the question, Muna?
Yes, of course. All right, so I believe that we try to remind of
Muna,
because big university.
You have an unstable connection, it seems. Okay, now Muna, you want to reconnect or without video? Okay, go ahead. Let's try now.
Yeah, I'll try to take off my video as well. So I was trying to say that at AUB, we sort of surpassed this idea of trying to avoid the duplication, because I think it's inevitable in such a large institution with such a big number of students and diversity in terms of majors and domains, not to have duplication, because like entrepreneurship for engineering looks a little bit different than entrepreneurship for agriculture or medicine, let's say. So you have to have support entities or programs in the various faculties, let's say, but also you need to have synergies amongst them. So there is duplication for sure. We don't see it as a bad thing, but what we see more importantly is to have synergies, to know what each one is doing, and to be able to refer the students to the different resources as they need, because each center or each supporting organization or entity is strong at something. So it's not a complete overlap or a complete duplication. So each one has, its own pros, its own strengths, and we want to leverage on these strengths, and we want to give our students and again our community the best experience and the best journey. So this is how we look at it now. It's more of like smaller pieces to a bigger puzzle. we don't see it at duplication. And again, if we look at top universities in the world who are known for their innovation and entrepreneurship programs and success stories like MIT, Stanford, you see dozens of these centers and initiatives at the university. Sometimes like within one faculty, there are multiple. So this is not necessarily a bad thing, but again, we need to be working together and collaborating together for a bigger goal.
Thank you, Dr. Demir for the question, and Muna. I want to see, okay, Dr. Badran would like to speak. Go ahead, Dr. Badran. Dr. Badran, I refer to the book he edited. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. FOUAD. Thank you for all. I've been wondering, really, we invested so much in the Arab region in education. We invested so much in research. As a matter of fact, we have wiped out almost illiteracy. And we made a lot of progress. But really, when you look about entrepreneurship and innovations, I always measure it with startups. And also I measure it of the impact on our economy. I don't think we are going in the right direction. I think there is a gap between academia and industry. There is a gap between innovation, entrepreneurship, and the delivery of R&D research. We have to close that gap. I think in the Arab society, we are still consumers of the technology of the West, and also now the technology of the East, China, Japan, and the others. I don't think we are creators of knowledge, although we have advanced very much in research. We have advanced very much in everything, except we haven't taken our advancement in science with the advancement of economy and be self-reliant. We still consumers of the technology of the West and East, and we have no indigenous technology created by our knowledge, by our research. And this is where is innovation? Where is entrepreneurship? Because startups is absent, and delivery of research is not translated into markets. I thought probably it's the problem of culture. We lack the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Probably we have to look at our education system, starting from childhood, to build innovation and creativity in the child, and to grow up with it to become researchers in the future. Probably that's where the problem is. And that's why we are different from the advanced world. We haven't advanced in startups. We're still way behind in really translating R&D to reality. And particularly now, we are going into digital transformation. And this is another revolution is coming up, and we shouldn't be behind. We should really go ahead with it strongly with others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adnan. And respecting diversity to get more creative ideas, as Youseph mentioned, I'm going to go with the senior response from Youseph and then a young response from Kareem. Youseph, your comment on Dr. Badran, knowing where you've been, what you do, and where you are now.
Thank you so much. First of all, I enjoyed the talks by Dr. ITANI and Dr. Hassan so much. I was really inspired by all of that you're doing there. It's really amazing. Regarding your comments, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. Until you start being creative problem solvers and bringing new solutions to the world, you will always be consumers. But the problem is not culture. In fact, if you look at Asian culture from China, for example, I have many students from around the world. The students who are least likely to question me, because in order to be an innovator, you have to question. You have to say, this is not right. I don't like this. There has to be a better way. my students from Asia. Sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which part did you not hear? Any of it?
My students from Asia, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to first say that I enjoyed your talk, Dr. ITANI and Dr. Hassan, so much. I enjoyed the understanding of the amazing developments you have there at AUB and your analysis and your chart. I would love to get a copy of that chart of the innovation ecosystem in the Middle East. We've done similar projects in Africa and Latin America in bringing together innovation programs. We'd love to work with you to do something in the Middle East. But regarding your question, I would say you are exactly correct. Until you become problem solvers, you will always be consumers. But the problem is not culture. I can assure you the problem is not culture, because my students from Asia are the least likely to stand up and say, this is wrong. You know, to be an innovator, you have to be able to stand up and say, there has to be a better way to do something. But there's some fields where this is not common. For example, in medicine, you don't want to go to a doctor and the surgeon says, I'm going to do a surgery on you. I had this wonderful idea last night. I'm going to try it on you for the first time. You don't want that in your surgeon. You want to be very conservative practice of medicine. But there has to be innovation in order to be, to solve problems. I would say the students that I've worked with from the Middle East are the first ones to contradict me. The first ones to say, Yazdi, you're wrong. I don't agree with you. I disagree with you. So the problem is not culture. The problem is where the resources are being spent. Unfortunately, not only in Middle East, but also in Asia, I've seen over and over again, people trying to copy Johns Hopkins University the way it was 30 years ago, 100 years ago. But Johns Hopkins University itself is trying to break away from that model. It's like a country that does not have telephones saying we're going to go and start by installing landlines and then we'll go to cell phones 10 years later. Instead, smart countries, they leapfrog and they say we'll go straight from no cell phones, from no telephone at all to cell phone network. The kind of academic activity that Dr. ITANI is doing and what we're doing is a leapfrog of the approach. It's harnessing the power of academia and industry and medicine together to solve real world problems. And this is something that even Johns Hopkins was not doing 15 years ago very well. So this is an opportunity for institutions in the Middle East to say, we don't need to build big towers, ivory towers for academia to show that we have the latest science to compete with American laboratories in science and technology. You cannot. Hopkins spends $2.3 billion a year in R&D, just in research. But you can compete in innovation because innovation does not require complex things. It requires creativity and understanding. It requires empathy. It requires teamwork. I've worked with teams in the Gaza Strip on how do you deliver healthcare in a system where the healthcare system has collapsed. And the ideas I've seen coming out of the teams of students there were unbelievable, things that our students had never developed or would never develop. So I would say the Middle East has the opportunity and the capability to compete and even do better than the East or the West. But it depends on where leaders devote their resources.
Thank you, Youseph. KAREEM, can you comment on what you heard from Dr. Badran and now Youseph comments as well? KAREEM, you are in a position, you have a regional outlook also. And you're young. I have to admit you're young too, so the future is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, it's an idea. The main thing is creating opportunities and giving the floor to people to express themselves and the challenges that they are facing in the region and how to help them to overcome these challenges. I stress a lot on the community policy dialogue. This could be a key solution. If like I presented several solutions and ideas, the key thing will be the community policy dialogue. Having people, having all people from different perspectives at the same room discussing the challenges, clarify them, getting a challenge per meeting, solving this challenge with different ideas and solutions, practical solutions, distributing the tasks among the people who are attending, implementing these tasks, and follow up on them. This will be a huge transformation to whatever sector we are talking about. You can implement that in the field of agriculture or renewable energy or water or digital solutions or ICT or emerging technologies whatsoever. Bring the people who are working in this field together from the government, from the business enabling community, from the SMEs, innovators, academia. Bring them at the same room. It shouldn't be complete. The room shouldn't be complete with everyone representing the sector. But starting the process as simple as and as quick as possible with whoever is attending in the room, start the discussion. Trust me, and it's 100% proven and tested and working that it works. Okay, so it's you will figure out new ideas, you will figure out new challenges also facing different people from these different communities, and this will enlighten the minds and how they see the different perspectives. Unfortunately, in our Arabian community, people are thinking and working in isolated islands. The government is isolated, the entrepreneurs are isolated, academia is isolated, entrepreneurs are isolated. So, and everyone is doing great efforts, and they are working 24/7 in our region, but connecting the dots together, this will be a key success factor. It will eliminate any overlapping. It will utilize all the available resources wisely. It will mobilize also different resources and different communities and perspectives or ideas to solve different challenges. Having this kind of collective mindset, we can say, an open and collective innovation, this will help us a lot to utilize the minimal resources that we have in our community and maximize that utilization of these resources for great success. So this is a conclusion of my of this small journey, I can say, and yeah, my comment on the discussions and the raised points.
Kareem's background is himself a social entrepreneur and social innovator in Egypt. He's done quite a few projects that are still serving the communities in their setting. I want to thank Kareem for including in the chat box very relevant links, such as ESCWA's ecosystem maps, the one that we displayed in the presentation, another link for component and agri-tech and business models, renewable energy technologies business models, and hundreds of funding opportunities for SMEs. Go on the links and explore, benefit, distribute, disseminate. Please, let's help in our own way, no matter how large or how small your network is. Let's play a role. As we say, we can do it. This is a self-efficacy we talked about. This is the agency for the size of each one of us, and the community will be even much better. I want to thank Ziad for raising hand for quite a while and being patient. Ziad, can you introduce yourself and the question you have, for whom, if you have a specific thing? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Murad, FOUAD Murad. It's been a long time since we met. First of all, I would like to speak about the investment issue gap. The investment issue here in Jordan, the problem that the investment drive. Here, all the focus is on IT rather than hardware or medical. Me, as a medical innovator, I have several inventions in safety medical technology. I would love to direct my question to Dr. Youseph. I'm going to the US, I think in April. I have registered my company in Massachusetts, USA. And regarding my innovation, which is the safety cannula or sannula, I would like to ask if I can have a contact for the innovation center there.
Yes, of course, please. Dr. Murad can connect us. He has my contact information. I'm very happy to.
Or we have some kind of we don't use.
Ziad, I think we got
any kind of needle. Our needle is just 66. Yep.
Ziad, we got the inquiry you have. I will link you with Dr. Youseph and wish you good luck and hope you will circulate what you're doing and remain at least partially in Jordan and in the region, because we're trying to feed the ecosystem. That will be great. Thank you, Ziad.
Thank you.
I want to move on to another participant, Hala Youseph. Go ahead, introduce yourself, what you do, and what question do you have?
Thank you, Dr. Murad. I am Hala Youseph, a third-year industrial engineering student at the University of Jordan. I wanted to ask Dr. Youseph and Dr. Muna, as KAREEM has shared the link to actually participate in the programs they offer, if there is the same opportunity at Dr. Youseph Center of Innovation and the same for Dr. Muna, since my startup is actually a biomedical device. So I'd really like to seek opportunities at both sides.
Okay, I'll play the networking person with Youseph and Muna. And there is another question for KAREEM from Dr. Vandermeer. I don't know why Jack is not opening the mic, and let's hear your voice. Jack, if you wanna voice your question, or you want me to read it?
Hello, Fouad. Thank
Hi,
you
Jack.
for giving me the floor. I hope the microphone is clear.
It's working, yes.
Yes. Well, the question is to Dr. KAREEM. Well, compliments for the excellent work for mapping all the actors and the facilities in the region. You were told that you put in place a facility of 150 million to support entrepreneurship in the region. How does this compare to the total volume of funding? And then there's the total envelope, both in incubator programs as direct financial support for SMEs in the region.
Thank you, Jack. KAREEM?
Yeah, actually, there are tons of financial opportunities in the region, and ESCWA is capitalizing on that and trying to do a kind of coordination between funding organizations in the region. So we started this task this year by mobilizing at least the funds raised by UN organizations to support the region. So the funds that we collected, commitments, they were from, for instance, UNIDO, ITC, UNCTAD, and other organizations and entities belonging to the United Nations. And also we in cooperation with our partners at UNCDF and Islamic Development Bank. So these initiatives we collected together and announced the amount that we announced at the summit. And actually for the next years, we are hoping to create a kind of a platform or a gateway to all of these financial opportunities in the region. In addition, I shared with you a link with all the participants here, a link for all the compiled funding opportunities in the region in terms of incubation, acceleration, prizes, competitions, whatsoever. I believe we have more than 600 opportunities there. So we would like to play this role to collect all of these opportunities and offer them for SMEs. I also invite all of you to register yourselves at DPAR, so you will receive our newsletters consisting of all new opportunities and efforts that we are doing in the region to support SMEs in terms of funding, capacity building, and other means of support as well.
Thanks, KAREEM. And I have Dr. Asghar. Go ahead. I see.
Yes. I start with Professor YOUSEPH YAZDI. We talked about the good design of things to make the things work much better. Good designs are not absolute designs. They evolve with time also. So you have to take care of that. Second thing is to have good design, good, competent people to use them. There's the second part of very important of that. And the second thing I want, like you showed a map, which showed you're working in some countries. Why you are so limited in the number of countries in your map?
Thank you so much for those excellent comments. I agree with you 100%. The good design is one that is not static. It's constantly learning because we never get it right. It's only an arrogant person who thinks they have the best solution. Any solution, even at Johnson & Johnson, when we had millions of dollars of resources, we would always describe, okay, this is our initial product. The next product is going to have these additional features, because we know you're always going to have to, the minute you take your product to the marketplace, you're going to identify weaknesses, things you forgot to pay attention to, you did not pay attention to, you got wrong, and you need to improve on it. So you're absolutely correct. The second thing you mentioned is about usability and training. Absolutely correct on that as well. One of the biggest areas in innovation is making products so that it's easier to use. So one of our projects we're doing right now, in fact, in 3 weeks, I'll be in Mombasa. We are developing a tool to train surgeons how to do minimally invasive surgery because there's a shortage of surgeons. The third thing you said, I did not understand what you said about the map. Could you repeat that question?
The question is, you have showed the map, you have showed the countries where you work. And there are very few countries. Why there's so limited in number of countries?
We're a small program, so we have certain, and in order to work in a country effectively, you have to have partners on the ground. As Dr. Hassan has said, you need partners on the ground to work with you closely. Otherwise, it becomes an activity where you fly in on an airplane and you do something and you leave. It has to be organic in the local area. So in places like Uganda, in India, in Kenya, in Nepal, we have clinics and medical facilities and partners we've worked with for years and years. So for example, in India, there's an eye clinic there, the Aravind Eye Clinic, very innovative in medical device and eye care. And we worked with them for many, many years. So that's the reason why it's limited in number.
Have you any plans to increase the number of countries?
Yes, absolutely. One thing we're doing is instead of us expanding our program, is helping local institutions expand their programs. So we've created consortium. In Latin America, we launched one. In Africa, we launched one. There's one for Europe and also one for Asia Pacific area, where innovation programs focused on healthcare get together, share ideas, etc. So I was surprised when we launched the one for Africa in Kampala 3 or 4 years ago. There were representatives from Egypt, from Libya, North Africa were there, but there's no Middle East specific one. So maybe we could do one just for the Middle East. But the goal is to have programs, not us going and establishing a program there, but to help you in countries in the Middle East to develop your own organic local programs.
Dr. Youssef,
how do you finance these projects?
Okay, I'm gonna have to interfere in this conversation one-on-one, and I want to assure you, Dr. Asda, that the fact that Dr. Youssef was up at 5:30 a.m. his time to join this conversation and engage with all of us, because his intention is for this center in Hopkins University to have partners in Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, and most of the countries that are under this school. From Qatar, I have somebody now. Part of our role in ESCWA Technology Center, and KAREEM is the executive director now, is to actually network such opportunities to anchor in the community those initiatives that are global or regional. So
I have a problem for Mona ITANI.
Sorry?
For the speaker, Mona ITANI.
Mona ITANI. Oh, you have a question for Mona as well.
Yes, if you don't mind. The question is, she has all the different stages you have developed from the research and then the product development and the commercialization. Can you give a couple of examples what you have done? Very precise couple of examples what you have done.
Okay, Mona, you heard the question?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear well.
I'm asking you, you have given the different stages of development of an idea, then a product and commercialization. Can you give a couple of examples, precise examples that you have done? Very precise examples on the ground.
Okay. Mona, the question is clear?
Precise examples of the ground,
Yes.
that's what I heard.
Yes, on the initiatives you mentioned, what do you have in terms of tangible outcomes already?
Yes, I mean, we definitely have an extensive list of startup ideas and projects. And as I mentioned, our biggest weakness is actually the last stage where they actually go to the market and they sustain and they grow and so on. And they get commercialized.
Can I ask you, Mona, to please add in the chat box a couple relevant links on the initiatives you mentioned, whether it's entrepreneurship programs, bootcamp, or courses, or the Zen iPark, or
definitely.
Okay, I think Dr. Asa would love to explore these links and see by himself and all of us how we can partner and network to grow the opportunity in a win-win scenario, obviously.
I just wanted a couple of precise examples, if possible.
Yes. There will be underlays, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Asad. Do you have any intervention or question from anyone else on the call? I don't see any graphical hands. I don't see any manual hands. I want to acknowledge a few colleagues like Dr. Surya Raghu for being an expert in the region and training on innovation and entrepreneurship for researchers and scientists. And if there are no more intervention in this, I want to thank everybody for a great conversation that I hope we take at least one good idea. As Kareem mentioned, every time we have a community engagement policy, community, academia, industry, whenever we have an engagement or interaction, we'd love to leave that conversation with at least one good idea to take with us and develop further, one good lead to network with and build a professional, productive relation that is worthy and relevant, not only wishing them a happy new year and Ramadan Mubarak and what have you. We're talking about relevant communication, relevant networking that has a bi-directional exchange, rich conversation, and productive relation. I definitely took a lot of those ideas, and I promise to continue the conversation and linking with relevant exchange with many of you, especially panelists. At this stage, I want to thank the Islamic World Academy of Sciences, the Higher Council for Science and Technology in Jordan, for organizing and giving me the privilege of facilitating among such renowned experts, young and senior, mixing the expertise with creative minds. That's the panel we have developed together, and we're proud to conclude with Dr. Abdullah, the president of the Academy. The floor is yours. Go ahead, Dr. Abdullah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we sign off, I would really like to thank you, Dr. Fouad, for your effective moderation of the session. And I would like to thank Dr. Youseph Yazdi and Dr. Mona ITANI and Mr. Hussein for their informative presentation, which delves deeply into a vast and valuable experience in the field. I'm sure that it will be useful, helpful for all participating here in this session, whether they are academicians or entrepreneurs or policymakers. Thanks for all participants as well. And now allow us to sign off. Thank you very much. We hope to see you again.
All the best. All the best.
All the best. Thank you very much. Thank you, Youseph, Kareem, and Mona, and Abdullah, and
Dr.
Rima, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Stay in touch.